How concerned are you about Iran trying to escalate this war?
We are concerned. In fact, we expect that there's a likelihood of escalation by Iranian proxies directed against our forces, directed against our personnel. We are taking steps to make sure that we can effectively defend our people and respond decisively if we need to.
Boy, oh boy, do I have some news for you all, and it is not looking good right now. Remember in the opening days of this conflict in Israel, how we were reassured, we were told that America would not get too closely involved. And then, like the very next day, news broke that we were sending U.S. aircraft carriers and warships towards Israel. But they told us, don't worry, we're just there to show support. And then, a couple of days later, the news breaks that we are getting ready to send 2,500 Marines to Israel. But then they tell us, don't worry, they're not there for combat purposes. And then, a couple of days later, what happens? These U.S. warships that are supposedly not there to fight, were just there to show support. These U.S. warships start shooting down missiles and drones, which means we have become active in this war. Maybe not offensively, but at least defensively. You can't have warships in the ocean shooting down missiles and drones while claiming that we have not joined this war. We have. Well, folks, guess what? Late last night, an announcement was made. The U.S. Secretary of Defense announced that the U.S. military is going to increase the positioning of U.S. forces in the Middle East. That we are going to strengthen our positions in the Middle East. AKA, we're about to deploy even more troops over to Israel, Iraq, Syria, and you name it. It's already been announced. The plans have already been approved. More troops are about to get sent right into all of this chaos. Now, the U.S. Secretary of Defense claims that the reason why we're doing this is because of recent threats from Iran. And, you know, Iran has control of all of these different proxies and they're funding all of these terrorist groups and militias throughout the Middle East that are carrying out attacks on not only Israel, but American soldiers in Syria, Iraq, and you name it. I just told you all yesterday that if we keep seeing our troops in Iraq be attacked, that we're going to have no choice but to either pull out, which we're not going to do, or we're going to have to send more troops over there. And look what's happening. It's already happening. There was another attack on U.S. forces in Iraq earlier this morning. And now, more troops are on their way to be sent to the Middle East. He also announced that the USS Eisenhower, he ordered the USS Eisenhower to the Central Command Area of Operations, which basically means get ready for battle. He already put out the order to the USS Eisenhower to get ready for battle. So as we're told, don't worry, we're not there for combat purposes. The Secretary of Defense is telling these military units something totally different. They're being told to get ready. Now, yesterday, the news started spreading that soldiers aboard the USS Gerald R. Ford were fed steak and lobster dinners. Now, I've never been in the Navy. I've never served in the military. I've never been on an aircraft carrier. So I don't know how these things operate, but supposedly these steak and lobster tail dinners, they're reserved for either holidays or bad news. Yesterday, was not a holiday. So most of the people on this ship are already preparing for the worst, and they believe that this meal was the sign. And now we know it basically was. They fed these folks, they fed these soldiers steak and lobster, getting them ready for the bad news that you're not going home anytime soon. And in fact, it looks like we're about to just go full head on into this war. That's what is about to happen. And to the people who might be happy about this news, because I see a lot of people cheering on this war, I would have to ask you, are you willing to die for this fight? Would you be willing to go to war for Israel? Or better yet, maybe if you're too old for combat, maybe if you're an older person, would you be willing for your kids or your grandkids to go over there and die for Israel? Because that's what it's going to come to. So all of these people, they keep trying to pressure me to pick sides, that I should be cheering on this war. I'm not going to cheer on this war. I don't want to be fighting in this war. I don't want anyone that I know to die in this war. I don't want one of my 98,000 YouTube subscribers going over here and getting blown up in Israel. And ladies, I hate to be the bearer of bad news, ladies, but what do you think this modern day women's rights movement has been about? I'm not talking about the women's rights movements from the past that actually fought for women's rights, that fought for the right to vote and things like that. I fully agree with those movements in the past, but this modern day feminist movement that basically tries to pretend as if there's no biological differences between men and women. What do you think it's all about? When you go and you look at Hollywood right now, why do you think all of the strong hero characters are now women? You go look at the Marvel movies, the Marvel comic book movies. All of the strong male heroes, they've been replaced with women. Go look at Star Wars. It's women. Look at the Resistance in the new Star Wars movies. It's led by women. Now you might think, oh, this is cute and empowering, and we're showing that women are strong too, but that's not what's happening, folks. You know, back in the day, World War II era, they would give young boys comic books about Captain America and Superman. And they would read these heroic tales, and then they would want to become heroes themselves. They would read these comic books and be influenced to, go sign up for the military. What do you think is happening here? It's almost brainwashing. It's almost indoctrination. This whole blurring the lines between genders, this whole women are just as strong as men, we're going to blur the lines between genders. You want to know what it's really about? It's because they fully plan on drafting the shit out of your ass when World War III starts. You think that, this is about women empowerment. No, they want you to be on an equal playing field, or they want to put it out there that women and men, they're not biologically different. They want to put that out there because they fully plan on drafting you. They fully plan on you fighting in their next war. Why do you think these dudes in Hollywood and these higher ups in Washington, D.C., why do you think they support this stuff? Because they plan on sending you to war and making money off of you. That's what people don't realize. A lot of this modern day push, you think it's for the best? It's obviously not for the best. It's obviously caused a rift in our society. But at the same time, ladies, they're setting you up for failure. They're setting you up to be on the front lines along with all of the other dudes that get drafted, because guess what? Physically, women are just as strong as men. Biologically, there's no difference between women and men. At least that's what they're saying. And that's the excuse this totally progressive, woke, far out there nonsense that they're indoctrinating people with, that's the excuse that will be used when your ass is sitting on the front lines in Gaza wondering how you got there. I mean, look at some of our top military commanders. They're literally mentally ill dudes in dresses. I'm not joking. Some of our top military commanders, the people that we have to rely on to try to win this war, they're mentally ill dudes in dresses, and they will not hesitate to draft you ladies and put you on the front lines, because the reality is all of these dudes that pretend to be women, all of these super progressive people that pretend that they're on the side of women's rights, the reality is they hate women. That's why a lot of them dress up like women and they LARP as women. They pretend men can get pregnant. They pretend all of this nonsense to blur the lines, so your ass finds yourself on the front lines one day wondering how we all got here. So be careful what you wish for. Understand that everything is deeper than the surface, and there has been a battle being fought against you for a long time. They're trying to indoctrinate you. They're trying to brainwash you. And you best believe there is an end game to this. This isn't happening for no reason at all. But as America announces that we're getting ready to deploy even more troops, Israel is starting to threaten Hezbollah and Lebanon. They even threatened Iran. They said they will wipe these people completely off the face of the earth. And I'm watching as Israel is starting to evacuate some of their little villages that are on the border of Lebanon, which lets me know that they're already planning on possibly going to war in Lebanon as well. Full-out war against Hezbollah in Lebanon. So they're already evacuating people on these border towns, which is not a good sign. I mean, I'm glad they're getting the people out of there, but this means they plan on going in. This means they plan on ramping up the attacks in Lebanon. Also, the U.S. Embassy in Iraq is being evacuated as we speak. So the reason why I think that we're seeing more troops now being sent to the Middle East is because we now realize that Israel does not want to back down. Israel not only wants to invade Gaza, it looks like Israel is going to have a full military campaign against Hezbollah in Lebanon as well. And it's already been said that if Hezbollah joins in and starts fighting Israel, that America is going to get involved. It's already been stated that if Israel keeps doing this, Iran's going to get involved. So everyone's already involved here, right? And as we see these areas get evacuated, we already know why. We know what's coming. But here's the threat that they put out there. Israel's Minister of Economy, Nir Barkat, said that Hezbollah will be wiped off the face of the earth if they attack Israel. The plan of Iran is to attack Israel on all fronts. If we find they intend to target Israel, we will not just retaliate to those fronts, but we will go to the head of the snake, which is Iran. If our enemies attack, we will wipe them out. Israel has a very clear message to our enemies. We are saying to them, look what's happening in Gaza. You are going to get the same treatment if you attack us. We are going to wipe you off the face of the earth. So Israel has basically threatened that if we continue to get attacked by these terrorist organizations and these proxies that are being funded and sent by Iran, we're not just going to fight them off in Lebanon. We're not just going to fight them off in Syria and in Gaza and in the West Bank. We're going to go to the head of the snake. We're going to Iran, and we're going to handle the problem with Iran. Now, that's a big threat. And I can't help but feel like the only reason Israel is so emboldened to make these threats is because they know that the U.S., basically has no choice but to defend Israel and to go along with whatever Israel does. And this is we've seen a lot of rhetoric, we've seen a lot of talking, we've seen a lot of bolstering, we've seen a lot of bluffing. But I don't think they're necessarily bluffing here. I think Israel wants to go ahead and try to see if they can nip all this in the bud. I think the time has come where people are tired of the little skirmishes every couple of years. They want to go ahead and see if they can get this done, which they won't be able to. You know, you're fighting against forces that can be dispersed and come back in the future. Every time you think you wipe out one of these terrorist organizations, another one rises up in their name. When you carry out these military campaigns against these other countries, all you're doing is influencing the little kids that are there as their cities get bombed. You're making them hate you, and they're growing up to be the next radicalist against you. They're growing up to be the next factions that are going to be against you. So over in the Middle East, war basically just breeds more war in the future. I mean, look at what's happening right now between Israel and Palestine. A lot of this isn't just about the recent attack, a couple of weeks ago. It's about what's happening it's about what has happened in the past. It's not necessarily about what's happening right now. But just think about how far we've come. If my memory serves me correctly, the attack was on October 7th. It's October 22nd now. So 2 weeks, we went from America's not getting involved to we got warships in the area already shooting down missiles and drones. We got Marines en route, and now plans have already been drawn up to send even more troops to Israel, Iraq, Syria, you name it. Things are getting really bad. I mean, this looks like it's getting to, I can't say worst case scenario yet because I guess nukes haven't gone off. But anything shy of that, this is like worst case scenario. I don't see any turning back from here. But Washington, D.C. is supposedly still trying to convince Netanyahu and Israel not to go forward with this ground campaign. So if they're able to convince them not to do that, maybe this dies down. But I don't think that's going to happen. And from the announcement that we got last night about them sending more troops to the Middle East, I think they already know. It's inevitable at this point. There's no turning back now, which is why these decisions are being made. Let me know your thoughts about this, though, down in the comments below. If you're feeling generous, drop a super thanks, or you can support my channel for free by hitting that like button, hitting that subscribe button, ringing that notification bell, and I'll talk to you all in the next video.